The government is working on lengthening the opening hours of the mainland border. Pro-democracy activists overturn part of their convictions in relation to illegal rally. Death toll rising in Hawaii in worst U.S. wildfire disaster in a century. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Recent weekends saw Hong Kong people heading up north with gusto, leading to bottlenecks and long queues. To facilitate smoother crossings, Undersecretary for Security Michael Chook said discussions are underway with Shenzhen authorities on the possibility of extending opening hours at border checkpoints. Jackie Lin reports.
Busy and bustling, this is the situation in recent weeks at border crossings in Futian, Shenzhen and Hong Kong Lok Ma Chau spur line before the port closes at 10:30 p.m. on Sunday night. Some also had to rush to catch the last connecting MTR train. Among them was this traveler who thought this port opens 24/7. Those who couldn't make it must head to Huanggang Port, the only border checkpoint between Hong Kong and Shenzhen that opens round the clock. At the Liantang Hengyun Way control point, which closes at 10 p.m., some travelers cross the border to return to Hong Kong in the afternoon to avoid the crowds. This woman said using this port is cheaper and more convenient in terms of both connectivity and customs clearance. This port has multiple cross-border buses that take travelers straight to Shengshui, Tumun, and other urban districts. It's understood the Liantang Hengyun Way control point could soon be the first port to see extended service hours. It would open half an hour earlier and close 1 hour later. Next, the Lok Ma Chau spur line checkpoint. Reportedly, the government will study if it is possible to lengthen the hours until midnight, the same as the Lo Wu control point. Undersecretary for Security Michael Chook said to achieve that, the Hong Kong and mainland sides are actively discussing possibilities to prolong the port's hours, but it must be complemented by connecting transport services such as those at the Liantang Hengyun Way checkpoint. He added authorities on both sides are also looking to streamline customs clearance. They include a co-location arrangement at the renovated Huanggang port in 2026. This way, travelers will only need to go through the immigration procedures once at the land port. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Severe rainstorms and floods have affected the Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei region and northeast China. The Hong Kong government today approved the use of $65 million from the Disaster Relief Fund to support projects for 9 organizations, including World Vision Hong Kong. Chief Executive John Lee said on social media that the grants highlight the close relationship between the mainland and the SAR during times of crisis. Lee said he has instructed relevant departments to monitor the situation on the mainland and maintain close contacts with various rescue organizations. 7 pro-democracy figures overturned part of their convictions involving a 2019 illegal rally at Victoria Park. They include Next Digital founder Jimmy Lai and Martin Lee, founding chairman of the Democratic Party. Jackie Lin with details.
Former pro-democracy lawmakers Margaret Ng and Martin Lee headed to the High Court this morning to receive the verdict. Some appellants arrived via a prison van as they remained in custody for other national security-related charges. The 7 activists were found guilty of organizing and participating in the illegal protests held in August 2019, spearheaded by the Civil Human Rights Front. 4 of them, including former media tycoon Jimmy Lai, former lawmakers Lee Cheuk-yen, Leung Kwok-hong, and Sid Ho, were sentenced to immediate jail terms of between 8 and 18 months. Martin Lee, Albert Ho, and Margaret Ng, meanwhile, were given suspended sentences between 11 and 12 months. In the verdict, the court said the organizer of the illegal assembly must take some responsibility for or do something active to plan, arrange, or manage an action or event. The court found the mere presence and participation, even in a prominent position, was not enough as evidence to show that the appellant's actions amounted to organizing the procession. On the participation charge, the court said the defendants must have known that the protest was unauthorized and they did not file a judicial review against the rally ban. In a unanimous decision, Judge Andrew McRae and 2 other judges of the Court of Appeal quashed their convictions on organizing an unauthorized assembly. But their convictions on taking part in an illegal assembly is upheld. Jimmy Lai saw his prison term reduced to 9 months from 12. Lee Chak-yan, Leung Kwok-hong and Sit Ho meanwhile had their jail sentences shortened by 3 to 6 months. After the ruling, Margaret Ng told reporters she and her lawyer would study the judgment before making further comments. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Overseas, the death toll from the Hawaii wildfires reached 96, but will almost certainly rise further. It is already the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. The identification process for bodies is slow, but officials are defending their approach. David Garrett reports.
That was then a lush green and blue paradise. This is now the new reality. Boats that did not leave are gutted, few buildings are left standing, a barren, grey, scorched landscape. The sea seems to have changed colour. It will be a long time before Lahaina looks like the beautiful town it once was. The focus for the moment is accounting for the missing. It is a slow process, but authorities say they must do it right, not do it fast. The terrain is reminiscent of a war zone and the National Guard has been called up. Chinook helicopters are being used to move resources and fight some fires that remain. An X is sprayed onto a building to certify it has been checked for human remains. Survivor Akanesi Va has been sharing her story of escape. Along with her husband and 3 children, they jumped in their car, but when a power cable overhead caught alight, they had to escape on foot. Akanesi passed a grandmother and a toddler yelling for help.
She was about 2.5, 3 years old. I grabbed her, she was sitting on a blanket. I wrapped her with the blanket and I told my kids, you guys run. Don't turn around and look for me. And my 9-year-old couldn't. She just kept telling me, Mom, I can't. Please, Mom.
Everyone escaped by jumping over a wall, including the grandmother. They know they were lucky.
My son was like, oh, Mom, is this it? And I mean, what do you tell your kids? You know, and I told my kids, you know, if it is, my husband told him if it is, you know, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God.
On Sunday, many turned to God. This service was sombre. The church is doubling as a shelter for those displaced. Donations are coming from all directions. Further along the coast, this catamaran is delivering essentials. A human chain is formed on the beach to speed up the process. There are questions, though, about how prepared Maui was for the wildfires.
The sirens tell you to go in and turn on your television and listen to the news reports. It's usually for tsunami warnings and hurricanes. We don't want people, if there's a fire, going back into their home and turning on their TV. We'd rather they take evasive actions.
Still, some feel they were not given enough warning and are not getting enough information about when they can go into Lahaina to assess damage. Cars were jamming the highway into the heavily affected 5-mile zone.
We get no information. And to be honest, this is a level of incompetence I've not witnessed before here.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden headed to the beach in Delaware. The blaze is Hawaii's worst natural disaster, the most severe wildfire in the country for a century. Asked whether he'll visit Maui, Biden said, we're looking into it. David Garrett, TVB News.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi completed his 4-day trip to Southeast Asia with a visit to Cambodia. Wang met Prime Minister Hun Sen and his son, Hun Manet, who will take over from his father to lead Cambodia on August 22nd. The 2 countries vowed to continue strengthening political and economic relations. Wang earlier visited Singapore and Malaysia. Nazvi Kareem with more.
Strengthening old friendships and forging new bonds. The visit to Cambodia of China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi comes at a historic time for the Southeast Asian country. With longtime leader Hun Sen handing over the Prime Minister's role to his son, Hun Manet, on August 22nd, Wang was able to celebrate what he says is Beijing's past cooperation with Phnom Penh, while looking forward to continuing beneficial ties with the country's new leadership. Cambodia was among the first countries to embrace China's Belt and Road Initiative a decade ago, part of a Cambodia-China comprehensive strategic partnership of cooperation that has seen Chinese investment in infrastructure, health and energy. Hun Manet said Cambodia's new government would continue to benefit from bilateral relations with China based on the Diamond Hexagon framework launched in February to promote construction of an industrial development corridor and a fish and rice corridor. The joint program focuses on 6 areas: political cooperation, production capacity and quality, agriculture, energy, security, and people-to-people exchanges. Experts say Wang's visit will impact not only Cambodia, but other countries in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. The foreign minister, who is also a member of the Politburo of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, had earlier visited Singapore and Malaysia.
China's role has changed away from just, being a destination for foreign direct investments to being a net investor in Southeast Asia itself, particularly in cutting-edge technology that Southeast Asia is very much interested to tap into. Currently, China has already invested in, for example, transportation technology, smart transportation technologies in Malaysia, for example. The social media platforms are certainly, they have their offices in Singapore as well.
China hopes to build communities with Southeast Asian nations, and a foreign ministry spokesperson said ASEAN is an important partner for the Belt and Road cooperation. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
More news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Observe the traffic rules and stay safe is the message from the police. Starting today, residents who perform illegal road crossing acts risk facing a fine of up to $2,000. Mimo Sengai reports.
On Monday, police launched a large-scale law enforcement operation to tackle road crossing violations such as jaywalking. This means pedestrians need to be mindful before they cross the street. Only walk when traffic lights have turned green, or they may be charged a maximum fine of $2,000. In Taipo this morning, police officers were spotted in a road crossing area. Most pedestrians crossed when the green man lit up and stopped when the red man appeared. This woman, however, got stopped by police and received a fixed penalty ticket after crossing the road on the wrong signal. I misread the traffic light signal. I thought it was green light when I crossed the street, she said. This man says some people get impatient when they have to wait for traffic lights to change signals. I've also done that before, but I will cross the street under the correct signal from now on, he said. According to police, the city recorded 61 fatal traffic accidents in the first 7 months of this year. Among the deaths, 60% are pedestrians and most are aged 65 or above.
Police urged residents to be cautious when crossing the street, and the objective of the enforcement action is to reduce accidents and protect lives. Mimo Senai, TVB News.
The religious teacher who allegedly slapped a Pakistani boy, which led to the retinal detachment of the 13-year-old's eye, appeared at the Eastern Magistrates Court this morning. The 35-year-old suspect faces a wounding charge. The court revealed the suspect has launched non-refoulement protection claims for refugees. Police reports show the man has served as a volunteer at the learning center where the assault allegedly took place. A boy was reportedly slapped by the teacher after failing to memorize Quran verses on August 5th during a Quran lesson in a Muslim children's religious school at Yik Fat Building in Quarry Bay. His condition remains stable after the surgery. The suspect has been granted a $50,000 bail. This case is adjourned until the 25th of next month. Starting today, high-speed rail passengers traveling between West Kowloon Station and Futian Station can make a maximum of 3 changes to their trips free of charge as part of the MTR's new flexitrip arrangement. Passengers can make changes to the date of their rides and other travel options at the self-service kiosks and service counters at West Kowloon Station or the mainland's 12306 website. The MTR reminds residents that the changes can be made between 45 minutes before and 1 hour after the departure of the train. A Russian warship fired warning shots at a cargo ship in the southwestern Black Sea on Sunday, prompting a sharp rebuke from Ukraine. This is the first time Russia has fired on merchant shipping beyond Ukraine since exiting a landmark grain deal brokered by the United Nations last month. Meanwhile, Russia conducted a three-wave air attack over the southern Ukrainian port city of Odessa in the early hours of Monday. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The Russian Defense Ministry said its Vasily Bykov patrol ship fired automatic weapons on the Palau-flagged Sukhorok vessel after the ship's captain failed to respond to a request to stop for an inspection. The ministry said the Russian military boarded the vessel after it stopped with the help of a Ka-29 helicopter. It added after the inspection crew completed its work on board, the Sukhorok continued on its way to the port of Izmail. A senior advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the incident was a clear violation of international law of the sea, an act of piracy, and a crime against civilian vessels of a third country in the waters of other states. Zelensky did not mention the incident in his nightly video address. In July, Russia halted participation in a deal that allowed Ukraine to export agricultural produce via the Black Sea. Moscow said it now deems all ships heading to Ukrainian waters to be potentially carrying weapons. Since then, both Russia and Ukraine have issued warnings and carried out attacks that have sent jitters through global commodity, oil, and shipping markets. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Armed Forces Command in the south said its air defense forces destroyed all 15 drones and 8 caliber type sea-based missiles that Russia launched at Odessa. The command said a dormitory and a supermarket were damaged by falling missile debris. At least 3 people were wounded. Odessa, Ukraine's largest port and naval base, has been repeatedly attacked with missiles and drones after Russia pulled out of the Black Sea grain deal. Daniel, TV News.
Heavy monsoon rains triggered floods and landslides in India's Himalayan region, leaving at least 22 people dead and many others trapped. A cloudburst in the mountainous Himachal Pradesh state's Solan district killed at least 9 people in the area. 9 more bodies were pulled out from under mud and debris after 2 landslides in Shimla, the state's capital. 4 others were killed in heavy rains and a landslide in the state's Hamirpur district. The state's chief minister said rescue efforts are ongoing. All schools and colleges in the state have been shut and more than 700 inundated roads closed. A tornado and hailstorm have killed at least 2 people and injured 15 in Jiangsu province on the mainland, according to Chinese state media. Footage from state broadcaster CCTV showed a tornado plowing through farmland. The storm struck in the afternoon near Yancheng City, a few hours' drive north of Shanghai. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly.